Hey there, multi-prep teachers. You know how professional development never seems to quite get to what we need? It's like, great idea, but how do I make this work when I have 3+ preps to juggle? That's exactly why I created the Simplify Your Preps Collective. It's a free Facebook group built just for teachers like you, where we share tips, resources, and real talk about making multi-prep teaching less overwhelming and more doable. Sound like your kind of space? Head to kristenmasick.com/collective and join us today. Let's simplify together. Welcome to this week's Ask Me Anything, where you can ask me anything about CTE, teaching multiple preps, being a mom, secondary teaching, being an administrator, whatever you want to ask. It is a free game. This is the second episode for the week, and it is only during the summer. If you have a question, feel free to send me an email at hello@kristenmasick.com or a DM on Instagram at kristenmasick, KRISTENMASSIC. Welcome to the Secondary Teacher Podcast, the podcast for middle and high school teachers juggling multiple preps to get the strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you don't have to choose between being an effective teacher and prioritizing important relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Masick, a 10-year high school engineering teacher, former middle school assistant principal, and teacher coach. Every week, we will discuss strategies, systems, and time-saving tips to help you not only survive but thrive as a multiple prep teacher. Today's question comes from Joseph, and Joseph is wondering, what's the best way to go about teaching high school personal finance in 90-minute blocks? How should I structure lessons? Joseph, we are going to be talking to that, but also this will apply for any secondary class that you teach, specifically if you are teaching in the CTE realm and your students are doing projects. But I'm going to give you my basic format and structure for each of my class periods. When I was first teaching, I grossly underestimated the attention span of my students. For some reason, I thought that I would be able to maybe give a little bit of instruction for 5 minutes, and then they would be able to work on their assignments for the duration of the 90-minute block. That was not the case. Let me tell you some things that I learned from teaching for 10 years, but also being an administrator for 4 at the middle school, because middle school students have even smaller attention spans than my high school students did. I'm going to give you examples of 3 different structures. One would be if you are teaching a 45-minute or a 50-minute class period. For that amount of time, I would recommend that you are going to be starting with some sort of bell ringer starter, something to get the class in their seats, calm down, and then transitioning from their previous class period or from wherever they came from in the hallway. And that's probably going to be taking about 5 minutes. Then you're going to move on to reviewing the last class period's material for another 5 to 10 minutes. You've got your bell ringer, then you've got your review. Now you're going to head into your direct instruction or your introduce, however you are introducing your topic that you're going to be speaking on today or teaching on today. And that section is going to take about 15 to 20 minutes max. Now you could have this even chunked smaller, because you could have them watching a video for 3 minutes and then you're going to be giving some instruction, but that whole section itself is about 15 to 20 minutes. Then you're going to allow them some practice time, whether that is practicing with a partner or if it's independent practice, but that's about 15 to 20 minutes. And then being in a CTE class, depending on what kind of class you're in or any sort of lab-based class, always plan on cleanup time. I would say about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on what kind of lab space or shop you have. Make sure that you adjust that. If you're finding that your students are taking too much time or they don't need as much time, and then you can have some way of them demonstrating that they learned whatever you wanted them to accomplish. That would be kind of that produce phase as about 2 minutes. That's going to be your exit ticket or something else for you to get feedback on whether or not they met those standards, what you need to review for the following day, which goes into that 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of class. That is my example of a 50 or 45-minute class period. Next, we're going to move on to 2 different formats for a 90-minute class period. The first one, so example A that I'm going to be giving you, will be if you are able to have your students work for a longer period of time and stay engaged for that entire duration. For example, in my husband's welding shop, they can have a longer amount of time in the shop because they need that much to kind of get in the groove of things. The second example that I'm going to give you will have two times for students to work, but maybe they don't need as much equipment, or maybe they don't need as many supplies, and they can transition and have that broken up into two different sections. Let's go over example A first. Example A, it's going to start out the same way as your 45-50 minute class period. Bell ringer for 5 and the review for 5 to 10. That 5 to 10 minutes is reviewing from last class period, also addressing any misconceptions that students had from the previous class period. What did you find out at the end of the previous class period that needs to be addressed at the beginning before you give them new content? Then you're going to go into giving them new content. Now we're doing that direct instruction, that introduce, however you want that to look, but it's about 15 to 20 minutes. Then this is when you're going to get a longer practice block, 50 to 60 minutes. Know that you will probably have to be doing quite a bit of just-in-time teaching, making sure that you are still addressing misconceptions as students are working. This is a lot of times when I would like to walk around and give feedback and also grade and give marks whenever possible was during this practice time. Then you're going to have your cleanup time, which is 3 to 5 minutes, and then finishing up with that produce so that you can once again get that feedback so you can address it in that review for 5 to 10 minutes the following class period. Now with example B, we are going to break this up a little bit. This one also starts off 5-minute bell ringer, 5 to 10 minutes review, 15 to 20 minutes of introduce, and then we're going to do 15 to 20 minutes of practice. So it's like we did that 45 to 50 minute class period, but then we're going to repeat it. Then we're going to introduce a second topic. Again, 15 to 20 minutes, then another practice of 15 to 20 minutes, cleanup 3 to 5, and then produce. I'm using that introduce, practice, produce in everything that I'm doing, but I'm really chunking it and breaking it down into smaller pieces. That is one of the biggest struggles that we have as teachers, is maybe not knowing how or when to chunk things up. And just think about it. You want those bite-sized pieces in order to keep your students engaged. Another thing that I have loved to do is use AI and ask it to help me chunk them into 15-minute chunks to help teach my students. And I do go over that quite a bit in AI curriculum mapping for busy teachers, but that is my basic idea of a lesson plan template that you can rinse and repeat over and over again for all of your classes so that you know that basic structure. Joseph, I hope this answer was helpful to you, and I also hope that it was helpful to others in our audience. Share it with your friends, your colleagues. You can also share it on social media. You can tag me at Kristen Masick, KristenMassick. If you have a question, feel free to send me a DM or an email, and I would love to answer it during this summer series. Until next week.